Stock market record highs, earnings season underway, and sellers starting to emerge on the index. So is the market preparing to dip? And more importantly, should you be ready to lock in profits on the biggest stocks on the ASX right now? Get ready, because tonight we answer all that and more. Plus, is now the perfect time to ditch Bitcoin and load up on Ethereum? Stay tuned, because the answer might surprise you. If you want to trade with more certainty than over 95% of traders, then you've come to the right place. Welcome to Wealth Within's Australian stock market show. With over 2 decades of experience trading over 30,000 clients, we bring you what actually works in the stock market. I'm Janine Cox, and joining me is Wealth Within professional trader Philip Tortevsky, alongside Wealth Within graduate and Blueberry Markets Head of Premium Sales, Zoran Kresovic. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
It's a bit interesting sitting on the other side of the desk. Normally I'm sitting in the middle doing the tennis match thing, going back and forth, but tonight it's different.
Tonight you've got 2 boys. Who knows how this will end up?
Yeah, it could be interesting, couldn't it?
How do you feel
where
about
we'll
it?
go tonight, I don't know. Well, let's get straight into it. Is the market starting to show signs of a crack, and how likely is it that we're on the onset of a major dip? Phil?
Yeah, look, this is important because, I mean, what we're covering, normally we cover stocks that look good in anticipation, but to me, the goal is, at the end of the day, if you don't sell right, it's all for nothing. You know, how often do you see paper profits, people saying, oh, I've made this much, I've made that much, but it's locked in when you sell. And to be able to answer that question on some of the biggest players, and I've completely not answered what you were asking, but I am seeing a little bit.
You're getting to it. You're just getting warmed up, aren't you?
Yeah, but look, on the index front, we're coming into earnings season, so there will be much more volatility. We've seen unemployment tick up to record numbers, and that, the last time that happened, the market went for a dip in November 2021. So I've got that in the back of my mind, but right now, there are no signs.
I mean, we're at blue skies right now. The US market is just sort of, the NASDAQ is on blue sky, but the Dow is just teetering around all-time highs. Yep. And every time that the markets have gone to those levels, we've seen more significant growth after that happened. So, I mean, what do you think, Zoran?
Breaking through an all-time high is always a positive sign anyway, and whilst you might get a bit of a pullback in the market, and that's what we're seeing on ASX 300 in particular, I still think markets are actually fairly bullish. I do agree with what Phil said. Unemployment data, I think, for the month of June ticked up to 4.3%.
Yes.
Instead of what market consensus was at 4.1%.
So are you excited?
I am excited because I know we've discussed a few weeks ago the interest rate cuts, and I got it actually completely wrong on that one.
100% this time?
Yeah, well, markets said money markets did say 97% chance of a cut in July, which didn't happen, and it surprised the equity markets in general. But I think now, because we're actually getting a quarterly consumer price index with data, which is happening on 30th of July, so which I believe is actually tomorrow, if we do get a significant drop, then hopefully we do get cut in August, and hopefully that actually provides a bit of clarity and push for ASX 200.
That'd be so nice. Look, you've been right about most things, so we'll forgive you for being wrong about the interest rate this time.
So kind.
So
Thank you.
Let's break down the health of some of the biggest ASX players to answer whether now's the time to lock in profits and sell. What do you think? Is it time, Zoran, or should people do something else right now?
It's a question of where we are in terms of what are you holding right now. I believe the markets are actually extended, you know, to a certain point, and especially if you look at the top 20 stocks. So, you know, the banks, the financials, and there's, you know, tech sector as well, which have been outperforming the market for quite a long period of time. And obviously, you know, fundamentally, if you're looking at the PE ratios and price earnings, then you can say that it's extended and it's actually due for a pullback. But I'm more of the view that we're actually just seeing a rotational play. So we're actually seeing a bit of profit taking going from the top blue chip stocks, and obviously we're looking for the value and going into the stocks that are actually within top 100 or 200.
So how about you show us what you're talking about on the charts?
We can certainly do so. So, I mean, BHP Billiton is actually a good starting point. I think late in the cycle, you know, in bullish cycles, we tend to see material sector actually outperform the market and do quite well. So whilst BHP hasn't actually broken through an all-time high, or it's actually nowhere near that at this point in time, we are seeing a bit of a support level around $36 mark, and there is actually still quite a hefty upside on this stock if it was actually to continue to head higher. So, we're nowhere near the top at the moment. We're actually 20% off an all-time high, which is obviously a good sign if you're actually looking for a bit of rotational play, because if you have a look at, as I mentioned previously, the stocks like CBA and some of these other ones, they've been actually just starting to retrace off all-time highs. So perhaps there is a bit of a rotational play, and we're actually seeing material sector starting to pick up, which is actually a positive sign as well.
Okay, so investors can start getting excited about BHP, but is it a bit too early? What about reporting season and all of that?
Well, yeah, that's the big question, right? There are a lot of announcements or a lot of things coming out that reporting season may not be amazing for some of the miners, but then we have seen the ones that have reported that have come out with some good numbers. So it's a bit of an interesting spot. But if we just go back to that chart for BHP, and I think you're totally right, Zoran. I mean, right now we're seeing materials up over the last 3 or 4 weeks, which we haven't seen for a very long time, whilst we're also seeing movements in energy. That's another sector that's starting to pick up, and healthcare as well. Correct. That's gone for another big run. So when I look at BHP, Janine, to answer your question, it's very simple to me. Although, yes, it looks like in terms of a value type opportunity compared to the others, that this support that it's found at $36, we've been talking about it for ages. It's bounced off it. But for me, BHP is not ready yet. And that might be a bit controversial.
That is a bit controversial, given that you're looking for those short-term plays quite often. Yeah,
but right now we're talking about big picture. If we're going to be looking at something to say that it's time to get rid of, then you want to make sure on the biggest time frame you're not selling into just a pullback. And so when I look at that chart of BHP, right now there is nothing on this biggest time frame, apart from we saw this mini pullback through here and a rise up. Can I say that things are looking better? That's a definite. But the fact that we sold off last week, that's not hugely positive. And we sold off just as we hit this momentum line. So to me, again, yes, short-term opportunities through this period, absolutely. We've come to a level where it was expected that we would see some selling. We've seen that now. So now it's all about what happens around $42.30 and above there. If this breaks through and holds above $42.30 strongly, then you can throw the sell out the window for the meantime. Big words there about throwing that sell out the window. Yeah, you've got to make some statements. You're not the doomsdayer on BHP. It's all upside potentially. Absolutely, but it's not just yet. Okay, very good. All right, what have we got next? So we've got the next stock that we have is BSL, BlueScope Steel. I really like this stock in particular on monthly chart as well. So I think there's actually quite a hefty resistance level at the moment. Around that $24.80 or $25 mark. On monthly chart, it's done really well. It's pulled back. It hasn't broken through a prior low, and it's actually come back to test these highs. So as long as the stock can actually break through that level there, monthly level in February, which is high of 26.05, and the level prior to that in August 2021, which was also 26.15, then I think BlueScope has actually got a lot more upside as well. Again, it's nowhere near an all-time high, and it's actually got a kind of a clean run to go towards that $35 to $40 level mark as well. On weekly, it's probably not looking as as appealing right now. The only reason for that is because it hasn't broken through this high in February 2025. So if you can see a break above those levels, then it's a nice. It's been actually doing quite well in terms of creating higher highs and higher lows. And I really like to see that in a stock as opposed to just basically flourishing and going 100 miles an hour. So I like the consistent, upside run and then bit of a pullback and then upside run. So if I'm looking at this, BlueScope actually appears very, very good for me at the moment. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you, especially given it's spent so much time below that level and looks poised to break out. What else have we got, Phil? All right, next we have the big one, CBA. Now, if you look at what CBA's done, I mean, a lot of analysts or pundits out there would have said, hey, $190 for CBA today after the run in 2024, would be highly unlikely, but here we are. And CBA right now is in most world headlines as the most expensive bank in the world. So that's quite an interesting title to hold. But
I was reading online that looking at the PE ratios of US banks versus Australian banks, and Australian banks are way in front
Correct.
of US banks. So that's interesting in itself. But I was thinking, it only takes the mining sector in Australia to take off, and that whole dynamic could change. And plus, we've got the first home buyers grant next year as well, haven't we?
Come January 1st.
Yeah. But I mean, if we look at that chart here, to me, CBA is in right now. While it's trending, it's it's normal to say keep the trend as your friend, right, and continue to trade it along. But the higher we go with CBA approaching these levels, to me, it then becomes a trading stock. So if you're holding CBA right now, I think you should be thinking about, hey, when is the time to get out? Because if we go to, unlike the previous two, BHP and BSL, but if we go to the yearly chart, and I'll bring that up, and the reason I want to bring it up is if you look at the nature of these rises, and each one of these bars represents 1 year. So where have you seen in history the volatility that you're seeing on CBA today?
Makes it look like a tech stock, doesn't it?
Then that's the point. And as we know, when you're looking at the different cycles of a stock as it goes through, euphoria is near the end of the run. In fact, it is the end of the run. Right now, the way this chart looks, that is screaming euphoria. I mean, in 1 year, we've had a run up of 46%. And if we go throughout history, although in percentage terms, you might get those kinds of moves, right? 30, you might get it through there. But what follows 40 is generally a bit of a pullback. You saw a very similar type move. Look how extended those couple of years were. It's very similar to before what we saw in 08. I just think right now CBA is a trading stock, not a long-term investing stock. And if we go back to that monthly chart, to me, if it can get, or if it holds these momentum lines through here, the more, I guess, a realistic one will be somewhere through there. It is starting to roll over. We haven't seen these kinds of moves yet. So if it falls back to around 160, that is a level to watch in terms of where you might find buying. But if it starts to break this momentum line on the downside, then I think it might be the top.
What's interesting, isn't it, that we look to Asia for what's going on, and a number of the Asian countries are actually surprising on the upside with their GDP. So what does that mean? It seems like they're heating up, starting to turn a corner, and yet here we are sort of sitting in the wind, balancing at the moment.
Oh, and it's not only that, it's been proven by the money flowing into China. I mean, in the Q4, I think 2024, we saw the largest amount of hedge fund inflows into Chinese companies. And you look at Chinese companies' valuations, they've got a PE ratio of 10. I think they're ranked 10th in the world compared to most other developed markets. So if you're looking for value, and you measure that to the US, to Australia, China's where it's at. So it makes sense that, opportunities from a value point of view
So
are
if
there.
money flows there, then it's going to flow to us eventually, so there'll be a bit of a catch-up. I mean, our market is, historically every 5 years it jumps ahead of the US market. We haven't seen that yet. So, and the miners haven't taken off like we're expecting yet.
Well, the mining story is definitely on the cards, but I mean, in terms of CBA, I don't know your thoughts, but
And
I
CBA gets the benefit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think, Soren?
I share the same view with Phil. I think it's overvalued and I think it's overextended, especially the last move up and that, trend line that's actually kind of hugging the trend. You can actually see how steep it's gone and how extended it is right now. I mean, look, with the CBA, there is obviously, it's not a fluke. There is a reason why it's a $190 stock and way above and beyond in terms of the market cap when it comes to the rest of the banks on ASX, and they're very tech driven as well. So they got great platforms. They're way ahead of the curve when it comes to that as well.
So if you're a long-term investor, continue to hold until you get.
Well, look, there is different strategies you can apply. If you're holding, you can always offload half of your position and wait for a re-entry at a cheaper price to basically buy for a longer term, because obviously the yield would be quite quite good on a stock like this as well. But I think overall, the important aspect, I guess, of the course, when it comes to this education wealth within is you actually learn the tricks when to get in, when to get out. And that's the important thing, because there's no point of just holding something forever, if that makes sense.
And it can be different, can't it? From one strategy, if you've got a long-term strategy, how you're going to manage it to more medium or short.
Correct. But you also want to profit within the major upside runs, but also take profits or something off the table when he actually starts to pull back as well. So I think you can find a lot more undervalued banks right now if you're looking for financial sector on ASX as well. But I think a lot of money from this is actually going into your healthcares and materials.
And just because it's, just because it's CBA, a household name, it doesn't make it immune from it crashing at some point. Because when the market does turn around and crash, CBA will fall, like it fell over 50% in 08 and also prior. So don't just think because you hold CBA that you're immune.
Okay, I'm sure the CEO won't be happy about that.
Oh, well, you can give me a ring.
Okay, now we've got the next stock. Zoran, can you talk to us about GMG?
Yeah, so great stock actually. However, I feel like this stock as well, we can see this enormous run and we can just see how significant it was and, during the GFC, like how much this stock actually fell out of bed. And this is what Phil mentioned previously with CBA as well, regardless on the stock name, when, major pullbacks or financial crisis do happen, then basically nothing stays, immune to it. So if I'm looking at the stock, like weekly actually looks probably a little bit better than monthly, I would say. It's extended, it's gone up quite a bit. It's reached an all-time high. It's actually dropped quite a bit in the month of April. And it's actually starting to reclimb and trying to actually find ground to test that $39 or $40 level mark. Now, on weekly chart, it can give you an entry, and it has, I believe so, if it's breaking through the high of 35.44, which was on 4th of July 2025. However, we are likely to see a bit of a pullback or going within this range between $35 and
sort of
$33.
Going sideways, isn't it?
Yeah.
And but this is a stock that's the jewel, if you like, in that space, isn't it? Everybody wants to own GMG.
Correct.
So, is it that if you are still holding it that you continue to hold it or?
I'd probably still hold it a little bit more to see whether it can actually continue heading higher towards an all-time high. If it doesn't, and I bought it at much lower levels, I'd be happy to get out as well. I'm looking at the volume as well, and volume seems to be declining and decreasing since February 2028, and the fact that it's got an inverse relationship with price, to be honest, that's a bit of a concern to me.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think then?
Look, I'm happy to. Must
you agree with that one?
It must be in the water. I'm feeling controversial today, but I agree 100% with Zoran because, and to me, it really comes down to if we're looking at these, it's trying to answer these questions. It's always important to look at it on the big picture. So I'll bring the monthly out to widen it out. But to me, when we see what's happened, it's broken through to a new all-time high. It's this move here that the way the nature of the fall in May. That we did see with a lot of stocks, obviously, naturally. But the way this has recovered, it's only come about half, if not more, of that recovery. So right now, the ball is in the hand of the sellers. And that, to me, it's stuck in a bit of no man's land right now with the buying. It's had 3 months up versus what the sellers could do. So just to paint that even further, if we don't get above this level through here, which was previous support, and start to bounce down, I think that the relationship has turned to a seller's market.
It's good that you've drawn that line in the sand. So,
yeah.
So unless it does that, then just wait. Is that what you're saying?
I would really wait for what happens at that 35 level. But I would also add it's broken through, momentum. Yes, there is a longer-term gradient that the stock is supported.
I mean, as our students know, there's always this, weighing up of the pros and cons of the trade and what maybe there's a better opportunity out there. This one looks really nice from a long-term perspective. It gets going, but how would someone who was just new to the market make a decision about whether to buy it?
Well, to answer that, first you need a plan. And to have a plan, obviously, as we've mentioned time and time again, knowing when to buy and when to sell is just as important, if not more important, than what to buy and what to sell. So that's why when you go and look at this chart, regardless of what this stock is, and our students would know, the way this is forming right here, what they're taught in a certain module is that we see these kinds of formations time and time again, right? We saw one through here at significant levels that give you an indication that, hey, things are about to potentially turn on down. So with the nature of the breakthrough there, and yes, there will be the school of thought that, hey, it's already pulled back 20 or 30%, it's in the uptrend, and that is quite normal. But you look at the way it's given the confirmation after pulling back in those previous occasions. Look how strong it broke through before COVID. Took the same amount of time to get back through the all-time high. Around November 22, look how it started forming to give you the confirmation that it's reversing. Right now, there's none of that, and we're still holding above this level through here. So to me, out of all of the ones so far, if you are thinking potentially this one could go for another leg down, then this is the one I'd say, maybe.
Just wait and be patient on that one.
Yes, I would say that.
Well, look, if you want to be a great investor and learn how to really position yourself well in the market and build a portfolio that is going to weather the ups and downs of the market and protect you when the market eventually peaks and pulls back, this is the book for you. It's some great bedtime reading. So How to Beat the Managed Funds by 20%, and you know who this is by, none other than Dale Gillham, our chief analyst. So make sure you get a copy of this one if you haven't yet. Okay, Zoran, now we've got a really interesting stock here. I know that so many people watching this show are going to want to learn what your thoughts are on this one. So Northern Star, take it away.
Northern Star Resources, actually good quality stock. Monthly chart looks actually quite appealing, I have to say. We've got a momentum line running from the lows in 2022, and we've actually got a support level now, what used to be a resistance level back in January 2021.
I mean, just so that everyone can get an appreciation, how far has this stock come off the top?
So
That's really the key thing here.
Yeah, it is. But it looks like it's finding a bottom at the moment. So
it's significant. It's a significant decline. I mean, if you saw that, I don't think evolution has fallen that far, has it?
Not even Newmont.
No.
So just over 30% pullback. But look, I understand it could actually fall further, but I think the levels that we've actually got on monthly chart in terms of the momentum line, which is still active and still intact, and also the support level here, which was resistance in 2020, I think it gives us a good ground that hopefully this stock can actually kind of find a solid support.
Is that your way of saying I'm excited about this one?
It is, because Northern Star focuses a lot on gold as well, gold exploration, and gold has been actually outperforming the market and doing quite well over the past few years, and I still think he will continue to do so. So, I think it's a good stock. I believe if he can find support and start reversing and staying upwards, we might be testing those all-time highs.
Phil, is gold going to go to 5,000, do you think?
Oh, that's a big call. Let's stay in the 3,000s for now. But it's an interesting point, because Zoran's right. You're both right. When you talk about, gold, the theme of gold breaking through to new all-time highs, how hard would it be for an investor to want to sell in light of all that good news? But I think just because you own a gold stock doesn't mean you own gold. So that's an important distinction to make as well. There will be some gold players like Newmont that have feathered way better. And that's why, to me, it's so important to be looking at what you're seeing with Northern Star itself. So just on that chart, can I add something there? And I think the way this has fallen, don't question or don't be too quick to think that, hey, and I know what you're saying, Zoran, 100%, it looks like it's coming back to the natural gradient of rise. And yes, there is a possibility it could reverse from here. But to me, I guess the concerning part a little bit, if I can get a rectangle through here, is that the stock's gapped on the way down.
Absolutely.
Now, oftentimes, there's this common theory about how gaps always get filled, but it's not always the case. And you've got to, I spoke about it yesterday, but you've got to get into the dynamic of why gaps happen. And
this was one of your podcasts, was it?
No, it was on the Monday show.
Okay. Sorry, I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, that's all right. I thought you watched, but there you go.
Not yet.
But it speaks to the fact that there was so much selling pressure that price actually gapped down. There wasn't enough volume to cover that particular price level. It gapped on the open, and we've continued on lower with that. So right now, for me, it's got to get back above $17 or $18 before I even thought about this thing being bullish again.
Make sure that you've seen Phil's recording, won't you?
Well, it was a good stock. A2 Milk was the one, so and that's lining up quite nicely. So please,
Wonderful.
Go and check it out.
So with Northern Star, not ready yet, but this one could present some of the biggest opportunities on the market in the gold space, given the pullback, couldn't it?
Yeah, and keep it, I think, stock specific as well. If you do hold it, or you're thinking, hey, I've got really nice profits, I've been holding it since $8 or $10, and you're asking that question, is a time to go, and you're basing that question purely on the gold price alone, I think that's dangerous.
They need more information.
Yeah, I think you need to follow
the rules
what the stock price is
exactly.
doing.
I
Yeah.
On this one, it's a patience. You got to be patient with this one, definitely.
I mean, look, some of our students talk about some of the drawdowns on these stocks and how stocks can come off by 10, 15, 20%. But if you have a good understanding of the technicals of the chart and how to apply them, then you would be really familiar with how these stocks could move.
Yeah, because we saw the same thing back in, if we just go quickly on that chart, we'll go on the weekly, but we saw the same thing back in 2020. Big pullback to momentum, like even through here, and then you start to see the tick up and you think, oh, it's time to get involved. But it wasn't. And so that's identifying the right places to get involved, knowing when that dynamic between buyers and sellers change, which we do teach. So yeah, go and check that website out, but no, not yet for this one.
Okay, great. Well, that's one coming up. Thanks, Phil. Later on in the show, we are going to dive into some more major ASX players to decide whether it's time to ditch them or keep them. But now, time for our trending topic this week. Phil, what have you got for us?
All right. Well, we've just seen a new record in digital asset investment this month, with Ethereum attracting inflows of US $1.5 billion, which in fact was the second biggest week of inflows ever. Now, Solana and Ripple saw strong inflows too, but interestingly, Bitcoin recorded outflows, which brings the question, are we starting to see a rotation out of Bitcoin into Ethereum? And is now the perfect time to get in? And I mean, Janine and Zoran, this is a big question that obviously Bitcoin ripping new all-time highs.
Yeah.
We've had crypto week with the legislation coming through for the stable coins.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you're seeing outflows and the highest ever or second highest weekly inflows ever for Ethereum, highest monthly inflows in digital assets. I think it's time to give this place or this sector another look right now to see what is happening. And I want to bring up Ethereum and Solana if I can, because they're the two that are starting to see the real movement, and ask the question, hey, you know, going back to that, when the buying and the big inflows are coming through, is it often the case of the retail buying at the wrong time?
Is it too late now?
Well,
That's the thing.
that's the question. I was trying
And
to...
looking at the chart, it's interesting to see how far it's actually gone. So
Yeah.
in percentage terms, I mean, how far away are we from a good place to enter?
Well, it's I think right now is not the time to enter, because Ethereum's coming into a really important level at $3.09 or 3,972, where you've seen a bounce in the past 2 times. And we're coming off a serious run up. Now, I say this because, you know, getting the opportune time for entry really is the difference between making a good profit and not. And
a technical trader, does the chart show a really good entry there?
No, well, we're following 5 weeks up. And
No, I mean, at the time when it took
It
off.
has, in the past, I believe it has actually provided a good buying
If
signal.
someone
But
had the education and they understood how to find those entries, would that have stood out?
Absolutely, yeah. So we spoke about Ethereum on a podcast back a few months ago with Pedro, and we were looking at it around the 3,000 when it had this pullback. And we said, look, you know what? It looks interesting for a rally, but why I say right now is not the opportune time to get into a stock like this is you're coming into resistance. And secondly, what type of structure of the trade are you going to put? Because really after 5 weeks straight up, there is a very high probability that we're going to see a pullback now. And that pullback may come down to 3,000. So will you structure your trade well enough to be able to stay in on that volatility, to ride the upside long term if that's what you're doing?
I mean, a lot of traders are trading on those really short time, micro time frames. So they'll be missing out on this run, or they'll be trading in and out and making the broker rich, but not making themselves as much as what they could.
Go on.
Yeah, that's the point. I mean, right now, when you look at it after such a big run up, it's if you're looking at it as a longer term play, okay, but you really need to structure your stop in at a position where to account for all that volatility, which may not mean a great risk reward scenario. If you're looking for the better risk reward scenario, it's not here at this level. So.
Okay, so cryptocurrency enthusiasts, you know, you better take heed of what Phil's saying there.
All right, now this one is Solana. It's a different, another crypto. And look, to me, this one starts to look a little different.
This one looks better.
Yeah.
Especially on weekly chart, I think it looks much better and feels like there could be more upside on this one, and it's lagging behind. And this is interesting because in a crypto space, is kind of following the same trend of ASX 200 when you're actually looking at the rotational play as well. I know you mentioned previously, and we've discussed on the show within the past few weeks, the levels on Bitcoin and obviously driving all the headlines. But what we're seeing over the past few weeks is enormous amount of inflow into altcoins and diversification as well, and going from the biggest market cap holder like something like Bitcoin and going into actually all these smaller ones, because it appears the value is not there on Bitcoin anymore, or at least it looks like based on the smart money, and a lot of people are actually now starting to look for the next big thing. So, and we mentioned previously on ASX as well, everyone going from the blue chip stocks and profit taking and going into smaller ones as well. But Solana looks much better, I would say, probably, especially on weekly chart. I still feel that it's broken through this level here, which is in May 2025, high of 187.67. If this can continue to head higher, then the next level of resistance is between 260 towards an all-time high of 293. So we could still be seeing a little bit more upside on Solana as well.
This looks exciting to me.
It does. The other one looks overextended as well. And as you mentioned previously, like the question is, are you looking to buy and hold, or are you looking to trade? Because crypto is very volatile, it's very emotional, and what I like to call it is actually all the new money, right? A lot of new
money means dumb money, though.
Well, I'm not quite sure, because like a Blueberry, I speak to clients every day, and you go all these 20-year-olds that made millions of dollars in crypto as well. So I'm not even quite sure how to define it, because a lot of them haven't actually been trading financial markets for a long period of time. But what I've done is actually invested a few years ago. They kept holding it even through these volatile times, and now they're actually capitalizing on it. So yeah.
Well, look, we can talk about more of that on another Bitcoin show, can't we?
Yeah.
But how about we get back into our topic for the night and analyse some more amazing ASX stocks? What have you got?
All right, we've got Origin next. Now, this one here, is it time to sell? That's the question. And I am not seeing anything, which is probably good news for someone out there holding Origin, that we are at that point yet. In fact, we've broken through this really long-term level that had been holding the stock in that downtrend for a very long time. And once we started rising, I mean, you could even place it somewhere through here, but you can see back in July 23, we broke through, tested. Now we've had another big test and broken up. So we're clearly in trend with Origin. We've just got to ask ourselves the question, given we've had a run up of about, from those lows, we've run up 190 or 200%. So, going throughout history and saying, okay, a 200% run, that's about 120 out or 150, and trying to measure all the runs in the past, that's about 134. We measure this one through here and go, okay, that's about 433. But in terms of distance, it's even less than what we've seen through recently in 2021. So it is a little mature in the trend on a monthly basis, and I think we are approaching some levels that we could see resistance. So
there's plenty of space to the all-time high, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Whilst you're in trend, you've got to respect it and trade the opportunities that come. But again, to me, right now is a time to sell. I don't see.
Still looking good.
I don't see anything. Yes.
All right. How about we go to a very important stock? It's one of the insurance stocks, and it's QBE. You may have this one in your portfolio, Phil.
All right, again, there you go, I'm a lucky man. Let's go QBE. This one again, and the way it's performed since October 2020, I mean, really, when you look big picture on that monthly chart and you see what had happened all throughout this period, it was really a bit of a precursor to what was going to come next, right? I mean, our market resembled this type of price action from 2020 to 24, the big sideways accumulation, then breakout into trend. And QBE, when it gets going, I mean, it really gets going. So what I like about the nature of this trend is the fact that every time it's gone higher, it's created a new base, but you can see how it's given these little mini periods of accumulation or higher basing patterns. And now it's really starting to break out, but not in any volatile or I guess euphoric type nature, because we're still seeing quite uniform routine pullbacks on this. So that's a sustainable move to me. The only thing is, again, this is quite mature in the way it's run up. Is it the best long-term opportunity to be picking it up at 23 bucks after a run up of 150%? Probably not.
Great question.
But is it a good trading opportunity right now, knowing that you've got the weight of the trend behind you? Yeah, sure. And to answer the question, are there any signs of it rolling over just yet? On the weekly chart, it's starting to, break lower in terms of lower highs. But to me, the way it's doing it, you can clearly see it's doing it in a compressed manner rather than giving that really strong breakout and test to the downside. So I think right now, as long as it holds above these levels through here, you've got this really nice momentum. You can even tighten that up through here like that. As long as it holds 22, 23, more short to medium term, it's okay. If it breaks through 22, then watch for levels around 20 bucks for support.
All right, Zoran, you like big quality companies. Just in a few words, what do you think about QBE?
I think it's a good buy. It's consolidating nicely. I think if you can hold around these levels, around 22.75, and create a good entry point, I see this more of a consolidation than any major pullback because, from on weekly chart, if you have a look at the most recent high that actually happened in June 2025, we can see that the fall itself actually wasn't as sharp as the one in April. It's actually stagnating and slowly coming back, which could be retail money selling and smart money topping up and buying. But I like these sort of pullbacks as long as it's not too aggressive and too much to the downside. As Phil previously mentioned, the momentum line is still there to hold the trend. I generally believe this stock has got a lot more upside. Whilst it has gone 155% up, that's fine. It's created a major low in 2020 and it's been downtrending for a very, very significant period of time. So now that it's reversed and the long-term trend is up and medium-term trend is up, I would be looking to buy this stock and hold.
Okay, Zoran, now compare this one to SIG and how your feelings are about this one because, they're at a different end of the market, aren't they?
Yeah, this is very contrary, and like me and Phil were actually making some funny jokes about this stock just prior to the show. Well,
and why do you say that?
Because
come on, share your joke. I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, we'll keep it for next time, just to keep everyone intrigued.
Keep it clean, though.
Yeah. Look, this stock, obviously, buying it at much lower prices, like it could have provided them, fantastic entry point, but. Just looking at the breakout and the upside on this, like obviously would have been something very, very significant that came through fundamentally on this stock. And because it's gone...
Chemist warehouse.
Chemist warehouse, right, yeah. So the fact that it's gone so parabolic up and, with such an increased profits and whoever was holding, they would have capitalized on this quite significantly. It is only normal to actually start seeing some profit taking on a stock like this. So I wouldn't enter this. I'd probably stay away from this stock if anything. I think that $2.60 level is actually a good support base. If it breaks through that, then I think we got a lot more downside and we're probably looking for this stock to actually head somewhere within this range, which is around 130 to 150. I think that would be, that's quite possible. There is a gap here. Again, as mentioned previously, not all gaps do get filled at all times, but most of them do. So I would expect probably price to push back and retest these levels. It has gapped down back in 2010 as well, and it's come back up and basically filled that gap as well. But it's not a stock for faint-hearted.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the advanced students will be loving this one. Like from a pattern point of view, it really tells you where this stock is at in the big picture.
Correct, but for newbies, it's probably not a stock to trade, to be honest. Yeah.
And there's one more thing on because you raised a very interesting point about the way it's extended. You would think that potentially there could be some selling going on here. Now, the best way to look at that dynamic, and I'm not saying whether it is selling or buying, but we've had the highest amount of volume ever come into this stock right near these highs.
Yeah.
So if that's not a clue in terms of, hey, some profit taking coming through, I would think, unless it's just a whole bunch of, and regardless of what it is, normally big volume after a huge run up like this does signal that a turnaround's around the corner. So out of all of them for me so far, if there was any saying, hey, it's probably time to sell, I'd be if it was
Very
me, I'd be
close.
taking,
Taking some money off the
really
table.
thinking about taking something off the table here.
Okay, that's good advice.
And the worst thing, I'll just add this, worst thing is to get emotionally attached to a stock.
Oh, yeah.
And generally, traders and, investors do actually with these stocks, because what happens is you buy at the low, and then if you hold it quiet for a long period of time, you would see all this, unrealized P&L on your balance sheet or within the portfolio, and you're actually doing quite well. And generally, that's when the hype happens, and community pumping and pumping the stock and stuff, and everyone thinks it's going to the moon and all that before true realization actually kicks in. So,
Good point.
that's something to actually be wary if you're holding the stock as well. And again, you never know what's going to happen in the market, so you got to make sure you have a solid plan.
Yep, that comes with experience, doesn't it? And look, this next stock, Suncorp, has actually divested its banking interest to ANZ. Now, how is Sun fared, Phil?
Yeah, Sun's in a tricky spot again. I mean, let's look at the chart here. And the reason I say that is because there was a big gap down back in February 2025. It's come back and tested around that gap, but now we're starting to see price roll over again. So to me, that's the part that's a little bit interesting. It's almost like you're stuck in no man's land if you're looking to buy this stock, because you've got this overhanging, big selling pressure through here. So if you were to buy it around 22 or try to get involved, you're getting involved right in the midst of it with no real strong confirmation. It's kind of breaking through all the levels that you'd want it to hold. There is one through there, and it's almost taken that out as well. So to me, it is not looking super bullish in terms of the price flow on the short to medium term. This is another one that I'd put in the category that, more on the sell side. But when you're looking at the levels of support and resistance, I think this is an important level back at.
But I mean, if someone was going to sell it, they would have already sold it by now, given the fall that happened.
Would
so
they?
Isn't this about a bit of a consolidation now and money coming back into the stock?
Look, I think, to say that they would be selling it, I think very few people would be selling it once it gaps down, because the common psychology behind it is the stock gaps down and people go, oh, well, it's gapped down, I'm going to hold it and wait for it to come back. And often what will happen is it'll come back, and then it'll come back to the price that they want, and they continue to hold, and that's when the real dump happens after that. And so right now, that's why I say, to me, this is in a bit of no man's land. It's basically tested the previous all-time high pretty much exactly.
So a clear line in the sand, it has to get through that prior all-time high to get going again. But in the short term, you're suggesting it could come back lower.
I think this gap is what is
Problematic.
Is problematic right now, and
yeah, and it hasn't filled out as well. And I think just to jump in, first level is level of 22.14. I wouldn't touch this stock unless it actually broke through and went above that. And then I would be watching these levels here, closing the gap and starting to head higher. If it doesn't do that and it starts to continue or head lower, then this is basically benchmark $18.29.
Okay, Zoran has spoken. Now let's look at Telstra and see what we can see on Telstra, because we know a lot of people are holding this one.
Yeah, and good news. Well done. I like that it's finally turned the corner. But, when you look at the nature of the unfolding with Telstra, from a pure technical perspective, yes, for a long time this stock was unloved. But
the CEO's done all the right things. I mean, she's amazing, I'd have to say. And this is actually about levelling the playing field, isn't it? At the top end, seeing a lady do that. Well done. And also the fact that the big funds, the big end of town, tried to force her to sell off the business and break it up, and she refused to do that, and now we're seeing the fruits of that, so you can thank her for that.
All right, thank you. And I'm sure a lot of the shareholders would be thanking you as well. But if we go back to that chart, this is a classic technical unfolding. Once it hit in February, March 2021, that was really the sign to say, hey, time to start looking at this stock, and it's really kicked goals ever since. It's broken through, taken out the August 19 high, come up, pulled back quite nicely, and then we get that next leg up. Right now, when I'm looking at it, it's really quite parabolic and euphoric right now. So is it time to sell? I would say there are no signals in terms of selling, but is it a very high probability that you should expect a pullback soon? Yes. And so a healthy pullback could...
And a healthy pullback. We're talking about Telstra. historically a pullback could be significant.
Yeah, but I think the way it's unfolded now, it's really turned the corner in terms of the long term, where it is in its cycle of things. And you said, from a fundamental perspective, the CEO is kicking all the right goals. Price is supporting that. It's being loved. It's just a little bit stretched. If you're looking to buy it today, to me, it's a little bit stretched.
It's a little bit extended, yeah.
But if you're holding it, I'd see no reason yet to be selling. And you got to think as well, even if you were looking to take profits, if you applied a really tight momentum line, you might sell this and it might tick back to around 460, maybe 450 before the longer term play. So you really got to ask yourself right now, is this a long-term hold for me or a short or medium-term hold? Is it in my super? Am I planning on holding this for the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah.
If you are, then the answer to me is not to sell.
I agree. Yeah.
Some wise words there. Now, if you want the skills to analyse stocks just like you have seen tonight, visit our website, wealthwithin.com.au. Now, moving on, shortly we have an amazing hot stock tip this week coming from Phil. But first, let's answer your questions. Sam writes, could you analyse STM Metals? It's been a sleeper for a very long time and it looks like to me there is a small potential breakout about to happen. All their core sample exploration, I've got a tongue-tied there, exploration, has been positive for a couple of years. If developments happen, could a very good buy of a penny stock? Does that make sense to you when you look at the chart?
Yes, it's definitely a penny
You're
stock.
looking at me as if you're concerned.
I mean, there's a lot of ifs. There's a lot of ifs, if exploration, if this, if that. And if that is your game and you're happy to sit in these types of stocks potentially for a very long time, then sure, in terms of whether there is a breakout happening, it's very hard to discern with the way this
Weekly
price actually is.
Weekly doesn't look too bad. I mean, if you're purely focusing on the up and down candles and stuff, but if you're looking at the opens and closes and what's in the course in terms of the volume, then you'd be very quick to realize this stock is actually not very liquid, right?
How much skill do you need to be able to trade stocks like this?
It doesn't even come down to skill sometimes because the price action is so erratic. Because there's not that natural flow. It's really driven by these, either a catalyst to come out or speculation. And when you talk the top end of the market, there is real flow coming through. So you get much cleaner, much more repeatable type price moves. Here, anything can happen. That could look like it's about to run up right now before it gets dumped next week back to under a cent. I mean,
correct. Yeah.
I've had conversations with students who used to trade these type of stocks. But they found that they could buy one or two out of a number of stocks that they bought, and then the ones that went the other way burnt all of the money that they made on the other ones. So
I mean, you can go the other way as well, right? Yeah. Like you can actually get into a stock like this and, maybe invested in 6, 7 other ones and they haven't worked out.
That's why they don't buy these anymore because they've learnt they don't need to be falling at that end of the market.
But the point is like if you're new to the market and I generally tend to see this with people that are new to the market because they tend to be uneducated. And starting from myself, I've done exactly the same thing when I started like 15 years ago. But, if you are looking to buy these stocks and you're trying to focus on that, it's fine. Like if that's the level of risk that you're willing to take and you feel okay and comfortable with that, not a problem. But the one thing that I would actually take into consideration here is how much of your capital are you actually willing to allocate in a stock like this? Because if you're doing, if your portfolio out of 100%, you're looking to put 1 to 2%, and you're actually willing to take so-called punt on it, and hopefully it works out for you because it's, 0.017 cents and it goes to 10, 20, 30 cents, then, you'll be able to get your rate of return and you'll be happy with that. But the biggest concern...
Could halve too.
Correct. But the biggest challenge and concern that I find with these stocks is, people tend to focus only on the positives because they're emotionally invested and they actually bought into the stock and they allocate large quantity of funds in it.
Big mistake, yeah. And that's a really good point.
I believe so because you want to mitigate your risk and ensure that if something goes wrong, because the companies like these are generally funded through debt. The cash flow isn't the best. It's basically one-stop shop. Like if he hits an oil rig or something happens, that basically, it can go to the moon, but otherwise it can cause a whole heap of issues for you and it can stagnate for years.
Can I just add just quickly? I know.
What if I say no?
Okay, we'll say no.
No. Okay, we can let you go.
All right, I just wanted to say, when you're looking at it, because you go to this chart and you see some of these moves, like look at that, in 1 month it's gone up 140%, but it's also gone down in that same month 140%. We see it happen again in 2014, 260%, starts off up in the same month, closes all the way back at the low. So what you've got to ask yourself, if this was a big time stock and it's coming out of a bottom like that, top 50, top 100, and it's gone up 400%, why hasn't the stock continued on and gone on with it?
That's a really good point.
That's the point. Because if it was a bigger end stock and it's gone up 30, 40, 50, 60% off the low, more often than not, the low's in. That's not happening. And that is common what you see at this end of the market. So why would you torture yourself and try and...
Exactly.
Anyway.
And look, maybe you've had a similar experience with some of these stocks and you might like to leave some comments just to share all of that with us. Now, Jeff's email is next. How much weighting do you put on gapping when determining an entry? For example, if there's a setup above a gap, do I ignore the gap? And should I trade before earnings next month, as the stock seems to gap quite a bit when earnings are released? All right, what do you think? Zoran, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I covered this yesterday, so I think
did you?
You have a go.
So I'll answer our first question in terms of the gaps. I would always go back and have a look at the historical data in terms of the chart on a stock and see how stock has actually behaved when there was gaps on it.
Okay, so you're talking daily, weekly, monthly, what's the priority?
Look, on a particular stock, it's very common to get a lot of daily gaps. That's very common, but I'd probably focus a lot more on weekly gaps and just go historically to see how has the stock actually behaved when there was gaps. Because as Phil mentioned earlier in the show, for some stock it doesn't really matter, but for others it actually matters a lot.
I mean, this is all about a strategy, isn't it? Because some traders new to the market, they find that they get to buy, they go to buy, and then there's all these questions, should I buy? They don't have a proper plan of how to get in. They haven't thought about what could actually occur when they come to buy.
Yeah.
People who have the knowledge, and learn with us, they're actually taught to be thinking ahead, not just at the point of the trade, but what could happen beyond that, and then what am I going to do if it trades or gaps up? So what advice could you give someone who's new and seeing these gaps about how to position themselves?
I'd focus on a larger time frame probably to start off with, because the bigger the time frame, the less gaps you'll generally actually see on a chart. And I think this next stock that we actually look at is a perfect example of that as well. So that's probably something that I'd be focusing a lot. And I would be focusing on more liquid stocks as well, because gapping happens a lot on stocks that are quite new to the market, they're illiquid, and there is actually a lot of news flow that actually affects its price as well. So, yeah.
I mean, gaps can be helpful as well, because they can give you a sign of whether the stock's going to come back to a point that you've been expecting or rise to a point that you've been hoping as far as the upside's concerned. So you have to look at it both ways. Now, Jack writes, Appen looks really undervalued right now, and I'm just wondering if it will be ready to break above a downtrend line soon. I'm thinking another 2 months before it's ready to shoot the lights out. Could you please give me your thoughts on what it could do into 2026? Now, this is a stock that we've talked about, a tech-related stock that we've talked about, that everybody's been expecting it to do such amazing things, but it hasn't yet. So what's the hold-up, and what do you see the barriers are and the opportunities are on the chart?
Well, I mean, it's acting like a stock at $1 should act at all-time lows. Like we saw it before with the other stock.
So get used to it, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice if the market just at all-time lows unfolded in a beautiful uptrend and everyone watched it go from $1 to $30 and think, this is the reality is it doesn't happen like that for every stock. It does happen, but more often than not, you're not going to see that clean price action at these levels. So if we go back to what is happening with Appen right now, it's coming, I mean, the positive sign is it's turned the corner in terms of what we're seeing from this downtrend. It's had what we saw in August, July 2024. If I measure that up, it's about 600% odd move, but rather than the percentage of it, the length of that move was much stronger and longer than anything we've seen since August 2020. So buyers have come in. naturally the sellers have come in to test and we've created a higher base. So it's doing a lot of things that are quite positive.
But is it about to break through the downtrend line soon?
Well, to me, following price is really going to give you that answer. So if it takes out this low of May at 76 cents, then and breaks through this momentum line, you can assume that, hey, we're going back to test these lows and play around, as price would at these levels. But if it starts to take out the $1.53 level, because it's bounced off the momentum there and started to form these consolidation type bars, I think that gives weighting to the high probability that it's going to run higher. Now, to give it...
Which way are you going? If you're on the seesaw, are you tending more to the upside for 2026?
Yeah, it's a good question on a stock like this. I think if it can take out the $1.50, it should push higher. And the nature of the way it's rising through here, if I had to pick one, I'd say it's leaning more bullish. But I wouldn't be expecting anything past $3. That would be the first target where I would see if it can get to $3, that's great. What happens after that is a wait and see.
All right, Zoran, just a quick thought.
Pretty much the same. I think this stock can go a lot more upwards. I think the momentum line is holding. Yeah, big upside potential. I generally believe so. I think if it can break through that weekly chart high of $1.54.5, then I think it's going to give a lot more conviction and confidence into the market that we might be going back up to test the $3. Just that fall in February 2025, I would love to know what actually happened there. Whether it was something fundamentally macro that happened with the stock, because if I'm having a look at it on monthly chart, this is kind of the stocks that I'm actually generally looking at when I'm actually doing my analysis and going through the top 100 or top 200.
Yeah, you're looking for the ones with the most significant upside.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, the little consolidation that we've just seen on the chart there, it's similar to what it did prior to that recent rise. So in 2024, same sort of thing is happening again.
Yeah, but it's gained a lot of interest and momentum on volume basis as well. So if you have a look at the volume here, we can actually see a lot more interaction than on previous times when the price was actually dropping. So it's showing me there is quite a bit of interest at these levels, which is also very positive as well.
Now it's time for the segment you've been waiting for, our hot stock tip for the week. And we've got Zoran to present it for you. Zoran, we've got an interesting stock here, a copper stock.
Correct. So we go Sandfire Resources, which is material stock actually doing a lot of production in copper. The quarterly results have actually come out, June quarter, and it's actually quite positive. It's showing around 12% increase in production. Mm-hmm. And the stock is actually currently sitting at an all-time high as well, which is obviously a positive sign as well. So,
okay, so when stocks are sitting at their all-time highs, they've got positive reports. Does that mean that we're likely to see a continuation of that rise?
Well, it depends on the sector. In this particular instance, as we mentioned previously in the show, material sector has been actually doing quite well, and copper has done actually quite a lot of heavy lifting in particular. I would actually imagine that this trend is likely to continue. And if we can bring up the chart as well on monthly and weekly basis, we can actually see that it's been steadily rising upwards. It's broken through a previous all-time high, which was back in 2018, and it's actually consolidated and come back up quite nicely. In April, it's obviously touched an momentum line and reversed and actually headed upwards quite aggressively as well, which is also a positive sign. It's consolidated for a very, very long period in time, which is generally a positive sign. So what I would like investors or students or traders to do is compare this to the likes of some of the stocks like ANZ, Westpac and Commonwealth Bank, because they've been actually going in a sideways range for a very long period of time before they actually snapped out and started moving upwards aggressively. So I think that's a positive sign as well. On weekly chart, as always, you'll probably get a lot more noise, which is fine. The stock is actually come off a little bit. I still feel even if it comes towards that $9.50 to $10 level mark, it's still okay, and it's not an alarm or anything like that. But if it continues to head high and breaks an all-time high, then I think we should be seeing this Sandfire Resources Limited to continue to a new all-time high.
I mean, we've seen a lot of stocks with the Trump tariffs. We've seen these huge sell-offs with the resources type stocks. If anything, that's probably made the chart look a bit clearer and better, hasn't it? The fact that it's come down and had that real retest.
A real retest, and that's what we haven't seen with a lot of stocks in the past as well. And it's always good to actually get that major pullback every now and then.
So how much could someone make out of it from here if it continues to go up, do you think? Is another...
Well, I mean, there's obviously levels of projection that we can do, and you know, they're taught well within the course, but I still feel we could be going towards that $13 to $14 level mark, if anything, maybe even $15.
Yep.
I feel, for me personally, whilst the low was actually back in 2022 and the trend has been bullish, for me, what I'm really counting is actually once the stock actually breaks an all-time high here, or prior all-time high. To me, this is a new trend that's actually starting to eventuate, and on the back of that, I can see a lot more upside.
Thank you so much for your opinion on that. I'm really excited about it too.
Thank you.
Well, if you want more from us, check out our video, Top Dividend Stocks to Buy right now.